So welcome back to Learn Astrology. My name's Mary English. Find me at www.maryenglish.com, maryenglish.co.uk and UK Astrologer. Now today we have a fabulous guest. We have Teri Nudelman, who is an astrologer, a tarot reader. She's very into amethysts and she's also a blogger and a podcaster. So welcome, Teri. Thank you very much for joining me today.
Yeah, thank you very much for inviting me. Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so you're based in Edinburgh at the moment, so obviously the weather's probably the same as me, a bit on the wet side.
Yeah, actually, it's like I think after a bit of rain in the end, yeah, there is sun out, but it's still a bit chilly outside today. But it's fine. I mean, I think as long as it's not wet, I think we are all good all the time. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very much a British thing to talk about the weather before we kick off with things. But it's been raining dreadfully today. It's absolutely stopped now. But at 8 o'clock, the whole heavens opened. But anyway, we're indoors, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
So tell me, how did you get into astrology to start with? What was the trigger for you?
How did I get into it? Actually, I mean, the to tell the truth, I mean, like I was grown up in a household that there was astrology. I mean,
Oh, wow.
my mother wasn't an professional astrologer, but for somehow in Turkey conditions like that, we didn't have internet those times and everything, and she had all these books. I mean,
Wow.
like, and she was really interested in that. So, I mean, she didn't know, I mean, draw charts or anything like that, but she knew about the signs, ascendants, and all these moon signs, etc. She would know how to, like, where is your Venus, etc. She would all the time talk about all these things. Yeah, so
Wow.
it's like, in a way, I was always familiar with astrology. I mean, like there were times that she will say, you know, that at the age of 35, you will have a progress on in Scorpio. And I'm like, now I'm looking at the back, and then where did she get this information? I have no idea, but we had some. I mean, I think in the bookshop, some of the translations, etc. Probably she was taking all those books, going to the libraries, and she was doing things on her own. I mean, so that's why I grew up in a household that there was astrology and later tarot.
Hmm.
She wasn't actually again no professional, but she would just get the cards and start telling the stories. So it's like maybe
Really?
that's the Pisces sun that was
Oh, she's a
working.
Pisces, your mother, is she? Okay, yeah,
She
they're
was,
going to be into
yeah,
that.
she was, yeah, she was a
Mm.
Pisces sun. So I mean, after that, but I studied economics and I had a master's also in banking. I worked in banking, etc. But when my husband and I moved to Edinburgh, I
Mhm.
continued a bit on my own, like a freelance trader, exchange, etc. At a point, I was like, in 2018, I said, I don't want to do this. I don't want to be in corporate. I
Mm.
don't want to deal with this. And I want to do something that will make my mind work and I will enjoy.
Mm.
And then that's something that I knew already. It was astrology. So I said that, you know what? I'm going to study astrology. And then my husband said, okay, go ahead. Though, I mean, he's not a believer, but he said, okay, this is what you want, enjoy, then go ahead. So I got registered by the Faculty of Astrological Studies in
Mhm.
London.
Mhm.
Last year I finished my studies in
Yay.
2023,
Mhm.
and then so far I passed the certificate and also intermediate exams there.
Mhm.
And I mean, in the meantime, of course, I'm all the time in workshops. Like I'm listening to recordings, and it's like everywhere is books. It's like reading nonstop because there is always something. Also in social media,
Mhm.
because you have to filter good in social media in some parts. I mean, like filter what is written and like
Absolutely.
trying to understand if it's the reality, etc. So,
Mm.
but yeah, now here I am.
Wow. Okay. So that's quite a wonderful journey. There's not many people that have come on the podcast whose parents were in, or either parent was into astrology. That's quite rare for the people that I've spoken to. There was one person I interviewed, and he came from a very religious family, so there was no hope of him ever. And I come from a Catholic family, and my parents didn't even know what astrology was, but it was my auntie, my father's sister, who who had an ephemeris and could work out charts. And I remember saying to me, that this boyfriend that I was with, she said, I'm not even going to do his chart because you're not going to be with him for very long. And I thought, well, how does she know that? But she was perfectly right.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, so there was astrology in the background for me, but I didn't get into it much later than yourself. So, and gosh, and your parents. Oh, now my grandmother did read cards. My grandmother read playing cards, not for us, but she knew how to do them, and so we heard about her doing that. But she was quite a lot older than anybody. Yeah, so she couldn't continue to see the cards, so she didn't do them anymore. But back in the Victorian era, a lot of people did read cards. That was a thing. You'd lay them out, and people played cards, read cards, did a lot more with cards than we might do now. So what's it like being studying the FSA? So you've got your intermediate qualification now, so what's that like, having to do lessons and things? Do you have to do essays and stuff?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that the first part, I mean, the foundation course, the first three modules, I was a distance learning student. So
Hmm.
I was doing everything through email and like email correspondences and writing down things and essays. There were more homeworks. Of course, it was like full on, I mean, in that sense. And it was getting hard for me. I mean, like, especially after my son was born, etc. So in the end, I decided that then I had two children when he
Hmm.
was born. So yeah, I decided that maybe I could do something that has less essays, and also I like, I mean, like listening, and I take notes, and that's it. I mean, I learn like this. I
Hmm.
mean, it was easier for me. So in the end, I finished the next six modules just as an online student. So it's a nice, I mean, experience, because you have lots of people in the classroom, I mean, online, and then you can hear the perspectives of other people, and etc, and exchange. At a point, I was like, from those people, a few people, I was in a peer group,
Hmm.
so really we supported each other for a long time. So it was a nice experience at the end of the day.
Okay, so it's quite unusual. You've got Moon in Pisces, which represents the mother, and your actual mother is a Pisces. Can you remember what degree her sun sign is? Because your Moon's 27. Do you know what degree her sun
No,
is?
no, her son was, I think, he should be like 17 degrees or something like that.
So she's a March baby or a February?
Yeah, March,
March.
March. She was
Uh-huh.
in March, yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Uh-huh. And she's in heaven now?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear. Sorry
Yeah.
to hear. And so, how do you cope with the Leo ascendant that is quite happy to be in the public eye, and then the Sun in Virgo, which is so shy, and the Moon in Pisces, which is equally as shy? How do you manage that?
I think that's what I joke sometimes. I'm the most social, asocial, unsocial person. It's like because I'm like, I don't actually want to be, I mean, like, in too much in contact with people, but on the
Mm,
other hand, I'm very easily like, oh, hello, how are you? Like, it's like, it's like, and I start talking. It's like, in a way, like, living two people in the same person,
mm,
something something
mhm.
something like that. I think that's a feeling like that, but I don't have any problem. I'm like also making communication and everything. I mean, like, so I think the way I can have that balance.
And did it make sense? Because when I learnt astrology and I found out that I also have a Leo ascendant, but I'm a sun sign Pisces, that for me made so much sense, because I didn't appear to be a typical Pisces, because I'm just not shy. I am not shy. I'm not shy. I'm not shy. I even put it on my dating profile before I met my present husband. I'm not shy, and I'm not quiet either. Ho ho. Um, but I was sort of happy to find out that I got a Leo ascendant, because it's a nice strong ascendant sign to have. It's not going to take too much shit. But it made more sense for me when I did learn astrology and found out how my chart was constructed and the signs that everything was in. That was the light bulb moment for me. Oh, well, that's why that happened, and that's why I feel like this and this. Did you have the same thing?
I think so. I mean, like, especially, I mean, like Leo ascendant, that actually I knew. It's like,
Right.
I
Because
mean,
your mother had already told
yeah,
you?
yeah, yeah,
Right.
yeah, yeah. That
Mhm.
she knew about it. I mean, I think that I had all these things. I mean, written from the really past times. I mean, I had all these stuff, etc. I mean, like, so I think, but of course, when I started learning more in depth, I mean, like, seeing things, for example, like there is this Venus in Scorpio, like the people tend to think that these are very jealous people, and then it's like that there can be vengeance. I don't think so, that I'm not agreeing with that generalization.
No,
But
because you've got
also,
Uranus conjunct it as well. It's
yeah,
not really
Uranus
from it's a
conjunct, so
yeah,
it's like sometimes people, "Ah, are you?" No, but I have Uranus conjunct it. So it's like, whoop, I'm not
yeah.
like this. So it's like everything in that sense makes sense always. I mean, I always have this doubt. I mean, like, that Jupiter in Leo in the 12th house, what it
Mm,
is doing, but
mhm.
except that I think all the chart makes sense to me.
Yes, and then so you've got three children or two children?
Two.
Two. Okay, and I presume you've done their charts.
Yes, I did.
And did that help you?
Hmm. I actually, I mean, sometimes I understand like better why things happening, and I know more or less. Like, I never looked in depth, but I know the synastry between myself and them. And then sometimes there are moments like, how is it happening? And then I know that, yeah, that's because he has this, like this. And then there is some drama going on the other side with my daughter, and I'm saying, okay, that's the eighth house problems, etc. Yeah, and I know, I mean, I know. And sometimes it makes, I think, things milder in a way.
Makes things say that again?
Milder, I think that
Right.
sometimes, because you can react in a way that it's like, but when you know that the source, where the source is, like, then you think that, okay, that I know that it's because of this, so maybe I should be much in a approach in a different way.
Yes, because it can give you a different perspective on things for
Yeah,
sure. I mean,
exactly.
I've only got one child. My husband's ex-wife has two children, but we didn't bring them up that we both got remarried much later in life. But my son, I got into astrology when he was born, and he's 30, coming up for 31 now. And so learning about his chart was extremely helpful for me because then I knew what he would or wouldn't like to do or how he is. I mean, it's quite funny actually because he's got son in the eighth house, and my husband, who's not his father, has also son in the eighth house. My best friend has son in the eighth house, and my financial advisor has son in the eighth house. So when I sort of learned all about houses and stuff, I thought, oh, well, that makes a lot of sense. You know, sometimes just knowing the houses and things in, but then it gets complex when people start using different house systems. When I only use equal house, I know how the other ones work, but we won't get into houses because
Yeah, 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 yeah.
that makes people sort of lose the plot and stuff. But just learning about the signs of things, you know, is something a fire sign or a water sign or whatever, I think really, really helps. And so, would you say that now you in my system that I'm using, you've got Moon in the eighth, and you've mentioned that you've in finance is where your experience is, and in economics. So that's a sort of an eighth house type of thing. Do you still continue that work? I mean, it'd be wonderful if you were a financial advisor for astrologers, because astrologers are absolutely rubbish at making a living out of what they do. Have you
I
ever
don't know.
considered that?
I don't know. I mean, like, I know that there are really good financial astrologers, but I think I'm like enough for me going into finance and everything. I don't think so that I would like to, like, put them together and make something out of that, because it's like, I really don't want to go into finance anymore, because it's actually another job. I mean, like, because you have to, like, for example, like stocks, bonds, etc. You want to give advice, then
Mhm.
I have to be also following that market and also all the economy. I mean, it's like all the announcement and everything. Then plus astrology, it becomes really complicated. It's a 24 hours, 24 hours. You have to be on top of the screen and everything going on.
Oh, I see. Okay, so following the market stuff. No, I didn't mean like that. I mean advising people on, because I'm a member of the Society of Authors, just to let you into something that happened this week. I'm a member of the Society of Authors because I've written a lot of books, and we had a lecture, an online lecture with the society this week, and they had a financial advisor talking about sort of pensions and how to make the best out of, what to do, and making it in really, really easy English. Because a lot of times when it comes to finance and stuff, people don't know what anybody's talking about. But I found that really valuable and a useful thing as an author and an astrologer and whatever. The advice that this particular, she wasn't advising us do this, do that. She was just explaining,
Okay.
about how things were. So but obviously she's a financial advisor as well, and she says she only works with creative people. And I thought, that's a niche form of work that I'd not heard of. She only does financial advice for people that are creative, so writers and actors and authors and
That's
that type of
interesting.
thing.
That's interesting. Yeah, that's really interesting type of work. I mean, also it's like also finding all those people who need the financial advisor, and then you go like, yeah, but it's probably working.
But let me tell you, that webinar was packed. I have never seen that amount of people that went to that webinar. It was absolutely packed. The
Okay.
Zoom call, the amount, you could see how many people on the Zoom call, but you couldn't see their faces because they were recording it. But you just sort of like another one's checking in, another one's checking in, thinking, oh, this is quite a popular subject.
Yeah,
When
exactly.
normally, they're sort of telling you about how to write a book or whatever. Nobody's particularly interested in that, but it was financial, like, oh, that ticked a box. But anyway, I thought that was quite interesting. So talk to me a little bit about the tarot as well. So do you find there's an association between the tarot and astrology? I mean, if you
Oh,
do a reading for someone, do you do both?
no, no, I don't mix them.
Mhm.
But in tarot reading, what I'm thinking like it's how I combine them. Generally, I think in tarot I use astrology, but not in astrology tarot. I mean, like it's like, for example, since the some of the cards, I mean, not all of the cards actually according to a certain system. I mean, like they follow the Chaldean system, etc. And then so you have the decans and
Yeah.
everything.
Hmm.
And also some of the major arcana cards, which are called also trumps, and they have associations with some of the signs and planets.
Hmm.
So depending on that, sometimes I mean, if I see a card, I mean, like it's like, for example, let's say the magician, which is
Hmm.
normally associated with the planet of Mercury. And then let's say yesterday there was I mean, I had a reading like that, and I was like saying that, okay, Mercury is at the moment still in Aquarius.
Hmm.
So I mean, like, what kind of extra information it can give to me about the reading. So I can sometimes relate astrology or I mean, like put astrology into tarot in that sense.
Hmm. Okay, but it doesn't work the other way around. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, because I'm also trained in homeopathy and hypnotherapy, but I don't use astrology in a homeopathy session, but I do use homeopathy in an astrology session, and I don't use hypnotherapy and astrology. But if somebody has a reading, I might suggest they listen to one of the hypno tracks I've got recorded. So I understand about keeping things separately. But not only that, if somebody's booking for a reading, they don't want me to be talking about stuff that they're not expecting in the reading either.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah. I
not
mean,
gonna launch off. Mm.
yeah, I mean, look, I don't know. I mean, for me, it's like since astrology has a complete different system, I don't find. I mean, there are people that are doing that. I 100% respect that. But I mean, for me, I'm in a like a session 1.5 hours. There are lots of things to say. You have to choose what do you have to
Mm.
say and everything, and then putting like let me draw a card. I don't, I think it just mixes things, makes things complicated. So it's like because there's a data in front of me and everything that an analysis and everything. So I think I don't need tarot in an astrology session.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there's a lot to go through in somebody's chart as well anyway. I mean, if you're going to cover every aspect and every placement and what did happen and what didn't happen, I mean, that could go on for there's some astrologers out there that I saw a lady the other day that does 3-hour readings. I was thinking, okay.
Okay, okay.
Okay, 3 hours. Interesting. So your North Node's in Virgo as well, and it's pretty much conjunct to your sun sign. And
Yeah.
Virgo is the sign of specifics. Would you say that you found your specific niche now? Do you feel happy with what you're doing?
I mean, at the moment, I'm not like a mundane astrologer or something like that. I'm happy with working on natal chart and forecasting. But what I like, since I use the decans in the tarot, I like the decans in astrology, and I'm studying more about that part of astrology as well, like how the decans and looking at the decans might make a difference in the interpretation as well.
Okay, so it's because I was just on a seminar yesterday and it was all about what's his name, Culpepper, and I think he used decans as well, and I'm sure I've got a chart in here. So that's you're dividing each sign of the zodiac up by 10, so there's 10
Yeah.
degrees because there's 30 degrees to each sign, and then those 10 degrees in each sign, do they go back in the same order? So like the first one, the first 10, sorry, the first 3 in Aries, how do they work out? How does the signs go with it? I can't remember now. Have I got it on here? The decans, or is it planets? How does it? So the decans that are in, are they planets or signs?
No, the decans is the like the parts of the signs, but then you can either do like, for example, with the Chaldean system, like in tarot also you are doing, so that each decan is ruled by another planet. You can
Right.
look into that as well. I mean, so it I think changed the I mean the perspective against that sign as well, and also you can also divide them. And for example, first, let's say first decan of Pisces is Pisces, and then the next sign is after Pisces, the next water sign is, let's say, Cancer. So
Mm-hmm,
second decan is like more Cancerian, and
mm-hmm.
then the third decan is more like a Scorpionic impact as well, along with the planets and all this combination of all things, how it can help with the interpretation.
Oh, cool. And then obviously you'd see with a transit going past something that it'd now be in their like second decan, and then there'd be a ruling planet to it. Is that how it works?
Yeah, yeah, it is.
So you can be a lot more specific. Is that what it helps with?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I'm not like working with the transits at the moment, but I'm more looking at the how the natal chart impact can be. So I'm working on that and like trying to collect more sources and everything so that I can, in a way, improve my understanding of the decans.
Gotcha. Okay. So now, obviously, when you're learning astrology, there's zillions of books that you end up as a pile lying by the bed trying to get read. Can you remember the first book or one of the first books that you ever read and you just thought, oh, yeah, that makes sense. That's astrology. I love it. I love it. I love it. Can you remember?
I think my first source was the Roy Gillet's book about the, I don't remember the title, but he is giving all the planets and the signs and everything, and it was a really good book, and I was like, wow, that's. I mean, I think I had bought it when I started studying astrology
Hmm.
seriously, and then for me it's always, I always refer to that because there are really some nice quotes in that book, so sometimes I just quote from there. It's like Roy Gillett says, etc. And then the other one is the Howard Sasporta's 12 Houses. I think,
Oh, okay. I haven't read that yet.
yeah,
I don't think I've read
it's
that.
it's I think, I mean, like it's in ruins nearly my that book of mine, because it's like I always go back, and it's a beautiful source. I think it's like I really like the way that he wrote in the past. Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, Roy Gillett is the president of the Astrological Association, of which I'm a member, and I'm also a trustee. So I get to meet him quite a bit. He's a font of all knowledge. He's an Aquarius, so he's absolutely lovely. And I haven't, I must admit, read his book yet. So I'm going to have to get a copy, I'm sure.
Yeah,
And then
yeah,
then I can have a chat with you on Instagram or whatever. Oh, it's wonderful, isn't it? I mean, I've read excerpts and bits of his work, but I haven't actually bought the book. Because I'm a lot older than you. I'm 63, coming up for 64. I mean, my sort of astrological library, every now and again I have to sort of clear it out and get rid of some, because otherwise it'd totally take over the house. And then I'm an idiot as well, because I also read things on my phone. So I've got a library card, and we can get free Kindle books and obviously physical books from the library. But there's an app on my phone that the council, so the library, provides, and then I can get lots more books on that as well. So I'm reading this book, which I'm studying at the moment. I've got 2 books in the bedroom I'm reading. I'm in a little reading group with a friend of mine. And so there's another book that we're reading. I've got one in the kitchen. I've got different books in different rooms in the house, and then I'll read that book when I'm in that room. And it's like, but that's because I got Moon in Gemini, so I can do millions of things at once. But I think learning from books is very important, because you're learning somebody else's experience. And for me, the 2 authors that influenced me the most were Judy Hall, who you might have heard of. She wrote the Crystal Bible, and a lady called Donna Cunningham, who was American, and she wrote a number of books as well. And I liked the way that they wrote, because they made it easy to understand. So I can't do complex stuff. I haven't got enough brain cells. My educational level only went up as far as O levels. I didn't even get an A level. I'm not that bright, so I can't do the really technical stuff. So I've enjoyed those, and I quite liked Linda Goodman at the beginning as well. And they're sort of what we call sun sign astrologers mostly. And so that's what I mostly do, a lot of sun sign astrology. I used to write a column, but when I then learned more about the charts, then I could do more with readings and things. And you've got sun in the first house, in equal house as well. So that's going to make you more out there and do it type of thing, rather than being, if your sun was in the 8th, for instance, which it isn't, more shy. So that boosts your chart up as well. So how do you cope with Saturn being the first planet in your chart? Do you take things very seriously? How does that work?
Yeah, always very serious, and also it's very near to my Mercury. I think
Yeah.
it's serious. It's like always this I have to do is I also in Virgo. It's like it gives you too much pressure. Too much pressure on myself, not on other people, but it's too much pressure on myself. I think it's like also the Virgo can be about perfection. So
Mm.
and Saturn hardworking. So you're like working to make things like in the precise way, in the perfect way, in this way, in that way, and then it sometimes it burns you out. Of course, like also it's like with the Mercury, it's like also the thinking is that cause it's like that all the time it's like they call like Virgos like overthinkers. Sometimes it's like
Yeah.
the brain all the time is like working at night. It's like wakes up. It's like what is going on, but coping.
Yeah. And how
That's
do you relax?
how do I relax?
Relax.
I think my relaxing is I walk
Mm-hmm.
and nature. I take photos. I like photography, though I'm not any I mean like professional or anything, but I like uh, taking a lot of photos. I also like taking the photos of the moon.
Do
It's
you? Oh,
like,
wow.
yeah, you can see me all on Instagram and everywhere that I always have the moon photos, day moon. I like the day moon when it appears during the daytime, etc.
Now
So
that's funny, because the Damon, I used to be on Facebook. I'm not on there now, because they did something stupid with my account. But anyway, there was a lady that was following me on there, and I was talking about the moon. The moon was up and the moon was visible, and she'd seen it, 'cause she lived in London, and she goes, "I can't believe it. The moon's out and it's daytime." And I went, "Yes, the moon can be out any time of day or night. And she was genuinely shocked that she could see the moon during the day because she thought that the moon only came out at night. And that's an easy mistake for people to make because we talk about the sun being during the day and the moon being at night when it isn't. Like you say, the moon can be during the day. But and I probably would have joined her until I studied astrology. And she was going, oh, it's amazing. And the moon's out. And how does that happen? And I went, it's just to sort of do with orbits and stuff. But people don't know these things.
Yeah, it's possible. Yeah, I know. I don't know. Now my children already know because we all the time, day moon, it's following us because it's like, of course, it's like going around, but it's like, it's following us. I tell also sometimes now the moon is in this side and they're looking at me. But okay, that's fine. You don't need to know the details, but we walk around like that. So it's nice. It's nice. Yeah, I like day moon.
Yeah, interesting. And it's very, very cloudy where I live. So I live in the West Country, and I think it's the wettest part of the UK because it's pretty near to Ireland where I am. So we don't really see much of anything. So it's pretty cloudy today. And so you've just studying astrology, and then what do you want to do next after you have these qualifications? Will that be enough for you? I'm sure you'd be sick of all that studying. Do you like studying it? I'm not so hot on it, but how about yourself?
I like and I don't like.
Right.
It's like I think I like reading. I like learning a lot. I mean, I can learn nonstop. It's like there is no end to my learning. I mean, limits of reading. I sometimes have, as you have mentioned, like 5, 6 books open at the same time. I will look at this, I will look at that, and I will listen to this, I don't know, podcast. I will watch this recording. I will go into that workshop. There is no end to my learning.
Mm-hmm.
But do I like the structured studying? Though I studied very long years, I have a master's also. After that,
Well,
I
you got a
studied
master's, so you must have
yeah,
been studying for years because you've got to do a bachelor's, and then you've got do a bachelor's, and then you go on to master's. That's years.
yes, exactly.
Deep respect.
Exactly. So I mean, it's like also I studied at the faculty, etc. But I'm like I think in that kind of structure studying, which
Mm-hmm.
I needed, because with
Mm-hmm.
the children, if no one tells me like now you have to sit in front of the computer at 6:30 at this day, I
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't do that. I cannot be self-taught. I mean, I
Right.
don't have that luxury. I mean, I don't say that it's a luxury, but it's like I don't
Mm.
have that time. So I have to make time when I'm structured. But after this point, I don't think so that I will get into anything like that anymore. I mean, like probably I will just go with the workshops and all those kind of. I can have small courses. This weekend, for example, I will join a horary course at
Mm-hmm.
the London School of Astrology
Mm-hmm.
of
Frank Clifford, yeah.
Frank Clifford.
Yeah,
Yes,
he's lovely. Uh-huh.
there's a horary course weekend this
Mm-hmm.
weekend. Yeah, I will join that. I mean, I'm also a member of astrological association, so hopefully I will go down this year. Go
Oh, you're
down
coming to the conference. I
to the
think, yeah, you'll be
conference.
going down. Yeah, I'll be coming
Yeah,
up.
yeah.
You'll be going down.
Yeah. Last year I have been there. It was really wonderful. I mean, it was a wonderful experience.
Oh, this year we're going to be going to there's a, oh, no, what do you call it when you got all the telescopes in and you look at the sky? What's that called? An observatory. We're going to the
uh,
observatory. So there's one near there, and we're going to have a day trip out. So we'll be able to look in the telescopes and we'll be able to see the sky. So that's going to be lovely. So that's
I
just
don't.
a day trip out.
Yeah, but I think it would be on Wednesday. I don't know if I would be joining that early. That maybe I may come a bit later. I will see how things go. It's like, yeah, it's organizing the house and everything with my husband as well. So it's
Yes.
like
And have you
I
got
will.
any pets?
Sorry?
Have you got pets as well? Dog, cat?
No, no.
Right. Okay.
I'm not a cat person.
Right.
I lived in Istanbul. I mean, if the people know about a bit Istanbul, it's like we have lots of street animals and cats are everywhere. So it's like after a while to see all the cats around when you are eating, when you are doing it's like this. I'm like, no, I'm not a cat person.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm saying having 2 children is quite a handful anyway. I mean, I've only ever had one child, that was it. But I have had pets, and so when I go away, my husband has to look after. We've only got one at a time, so 3 cats, one at a time, and now we've got a dog, so he looks after the dog when we go away. But so going back a little bit more to astrology, so. When you're working with your clients, do you do 1-hour sessions or 90 minutes? What do you mostly do?
I mean, I prefer 90 minutes. I also talk a lot, but it's like I want to, I mean, like, depending on their areas of interest and everything, I think 1.5 hours is a good time to be able to, I mean, convey all the information that is necessary for them to know actually, I mean, to make their minds up about certain things. I think it's like mostly, I mean, it's like if it's a returning client, like I already had read the natal chart and etc. For a forecasting,
Mm-hmm.
maybe for a returning client, it is 1 hour is enough. But
Mm.
sometimes I think that if it's a 1.5 hour, maybe I can talk more about the stuff. But I think for the natal chart plus forecasting, I think 90 minutes seems to be ideal.
Oh, because an hour can really, it can just dash by. An hour, quite a lot of
Yeah.
times, isn't long enough for people. And also, in my case, I like yourself, I'll be doing hour sessions as follow-ups, but my first consultations are 90 minutes if I've never worked with somebody once before, because there's quite a lot to get in an hour session. So talk to me about amethyst. So you use the title and you use the crystal, but do you use crystals is the question.
Yeah, I like crystals. I mean, like, of course, sometimes I just like them, and then they tell me them in the crystal shop, or someone tell me the reason. I mean, the meaning of the
Hmm.
crystal and everything, but I really forget later. But I like the idea of crystals. It's like I have all crystals around in the house. Actually, I also buy for my children because they like the idea that they have these small gemstones, etc. But I like crystals. I mean, I like the idea of that. And amethyst, actually, it's really interesting. Um, I had gone for an exchange, as an exchange student. I had already finished university, to Italy
Hmm.
for Isaac. Isaac is an organization for exchanging students.
Okay.
So I mean, I went to Italy, and then I had been, I think, in Florence to a market like this. That it's a gemstone. They were selling it's like something like that. And then the
Hmm.
first thing that I bought there was an amethyst. It was
Okay.
it was in 2000, like
Hmm.
24 years ago. And then I
Hmm.
brought it home. My mother loved, like, all crystals. I mean, she was I think, very spiritual person. I mean, she had also 12th house sun. That was her
Hmm.
Pisces sun was there. And
Hmm.
then it's like, then I brought that amethyst, and then she was like, oh. And I said, yeah, it can be yours. And then she was telling me that, yeah, in any case, amethyst, that the energy, one person should be touching that, yeah, the others like that. And that was the first crystal that I owned, actually. And so I think amethyst, I like the color. I like purple.
Hmm.
So
I mean, color-wise, purple's supposed to be a spiritual color. That's the higher consciousness color as far as colors go. I mean, I'm not by any means a crystal expert, but I mean, I've got rose quartz and amethyst and obsidian. That's the only 3 that I've got. Rose quartz brings you love. Amethyst helps your finances and your health and stuff, and obsidian keeps away negativity. But Judy Hall, who was an astrologer, then eventually morphed into crystals because she wrote the book called The Crystal Bible. And then that was it. She didn't do as much astrology anymore. Now, back in the day, she used to, if you wanted a reading with her, you had to send her a letter with a check. Okay, she wrote a check out and you posted it to her, asking for reading, and she'd do it on a tape recorder. She'd get like a little cassette back and some paperwork, and you'd have to wait something like 3 weeks for it to
wow.
come back. She did it all by post. This is this is back in the day now. So can you imagine people having readings like that now? Oh, I'm going to put it in the post to you. It's like, because everybody wants everything instant, the stuff.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And so you're the generation that was born with Uranus in Scorpio and Neptune in Sagittarius. Okay, so you're born in 1978, so you're born just that little bit before the Indigos were born. I mean, we could say that you're part of the Indigo generation, but you don't have the conjunction of Uranus and Neptune, which happened in the 1990s. But you do have a very one-sided chart with just your moon in opposition. So there's a lot of your planets all on one side of the circle. So chart shape wise, we'd say you've got a bucket. So planets all on one side and the handle of the bucket is your moon and stuff. Do you cover much about chart shapes yourself? Have you heard about them?
No, I have heard about them, but I don't cover. I know that I have this bucket. The moon is
Yeah.
holding the thing. Yeah, I know about it, but I don't cover the shapes in the charts. No, I don't do that. No, I mean,
Yeah.
I looked over, for example, like of course, like northern hemisphere is like that kind of the. I look at the eastern, western, and they're I mean like the imbalances, that kind of thing. I look at, but I don't look at the like specifically it's a bucket shape or that kind of shape. No, I don't look into that.
Yeah, because the theory behind it with yourself having everything on one side and then the moon in opposition, then your moon is quite separate from everything else in your chart. It's a singleton planet. It's all on its own. And in equal house, it's in the 8th house. So it's very hidden. So other people aren't going to find it. But I love chart shapes. So don't get me started because I'll be here all day. But yours is a very interesting shape. And so the clients that you read for, what sort of, is there a specific age group that you read for? Do you mostly read for other mothers? Because you're a mother yourself, do you read mostly for other mothers? What's your clientele like? Obviously,
I
patient confidentiality here,
Yeah,
but just,
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
of course. I mean, I think they are generally around my age. I have never, I mean, not exactly. I mean, there are very people in mid 40s, but also there are people a bit like over 50s. But I have read also for people like they are 30s, etc. I think it changes. I think it's really varies. I think it depends who wants to get it. But I have never read, I mean, really for someone that is like really young, like 20s or something like that, that generation. I have looked into the chart of my own nephew, but that's my nephew at the end of the day. It's not something like client, but except that I really didn't read for anyone that is very young.
mhm. And do you think people should read for children? So like if you're reading for a woman and she's got children, and would you talk about their charts?
Uh,
Because it's quite a
I
touchy subject.
Yeah, I have read once for child, but with the consent of the mother, and
Yeah.
I really didn't go into depth of the chart because you don't make any psychological analysis or anything like that. It was about like education,
Hmm.
looking at Mercury and looking at like also I looked at the Mars, Sun, Moon.
Hmm.
That's it. I mean, I didn't get into any details. I'm looking at the houses where it can be affected, etc. And I looked at the synastry with the mother, how she can help
Hmm.
in that sense. But except that I don't go into details, and I still, I mean, like it's a bit dilemma. I mean, at the end of the day, I told at the end of the session to the mother that I said that one day he's 18 plus, or I
Hmm.
mean old enough, and he wants the chart to be read, then I can tell more to him.
Yeah.
But that's all I will tell. In any case, I wouldn't go. I mean, I never write horror stories in any case, but I wouldn't go in anything specific details that will like prompt. I mean, like some kind of like anxiety or
Mm.
anything like that. So I think I prefer that maybe yeah you keep simple, and
Yes.
when they are old enough, if they are interested, they come back.
It's a big discussion that I've had on the podcast and with people in general, that this is my interpretation of it. I don't think it's right to read for people that are under 18. It's if the mother's there and the parents are there, and as you say, like you've done and I've done that as well, what should I be studying? Should I go to university? Should I get a job? Those types of things is very helpful for children because they have to make those decisions. And also, helping the mother understand the moon sign of the child. So if they've got moon in Taurus, make sure that they got 3 meals a day and they know what they're having for breakfast, type of stuff, so that you're helping them parent. But I would, and I have never read for anybody under the age of 18 without the parent in the room or the parent on the call, or there's some sort of sharing going, because like you say, if you go into specifics, they're not going to understand what you're talking about, and they don't need to know those things because it's the parent's job to look after the child until they're legally 18 anyway. And as you say, they can make the right decisions. So I totally agree with you. That's very wise. So what part of astrology really sets you alight? Which of the whole system itself, astrology, which is your favorite thing to do? What do you like the most?
I mean, I think I'm like quite happy with the natal astrology. I like it, and I like the forecasting. And in forecasting, I think the most interesting part, when I first learned it, it was like doesn't make sense. But now I understand that the secondary progressions, I really think that they are important.
Mhm,
I think it's sometimes challenging to pinpoint. I mean, it's like you have to really be in dialogue with the client to
mhm,
understand the real impact of it. But I think especially, I mean, like the lunar phases, etc., during the like the progress moon, how it interacts with the progress sun, and all those phases and etc., I feel that they make a lot of sense, and it's really important for the people. So I think that when I look at the forecasting, I think it's like in the when I come to secondary progressions after the transit, it's like first thing I look at, like which phase are they, what is it, what does it mean. Also, if they have an area of interest, I can see how it relates, looking at the houses and everything and the stage of the moon. So I think that it's really important. I mean, like I'm not a mundane astrologer. I like the conversations
mm,
that the people make, but I think it requires also a lot of work and knowledge. I mean, the
mm,
other day I wrote about that also. I made a post because it's not like knowing the facts on the headlines of the newspapers.
mm,
It's like something is going on, you have to really know the background. It's like it can be a movie, you can be
mm,
talking about cinema, you can be talking about music, you
mm,
can be talking about politics, which the
mm,
people do a lot.
mm,
But I mean, if you just look at the headlines and repeat the things that are on headlines, then there are some things missing. Also, it's really important to be like all in astrology. You have to be non-judgmental, but I think that level should be a higher for a mundane astrologer. So I think that's something I like. I'm watching people, but I cannot be one.
And do you find when there's something in news that you want to go and look up the chart of the person that's in the news? Because I do that all the time. So someone's in the news about something somewhere, and I'll go and find their birth details and I'll look at them and oh, that's why that's happening. Because I'll be looking at transits or natal or whatever. I mean, I won't tell you what I was looking at this week, but I definitely looked at this person's chart up and I went, oh, that's why that's happening.
Yeah, it happens sometimes. I see, for example, on Instagram, these reels pop up and
Mhm,
etc. You see, for example, an interview or something like that, and I'm like it happened. I think with Jane Fonda. I think it
mhm.
was Jane Fonda and Demi Moore.
Okay.
They had really, and then I searched them online because to see a whole interview, etc. And I it's like because there was I think Jane Fonda was talking about the friends and etc. And then something like relating with them, and it was like Venus in the 11th house, and I was like,
Mhm,
wow, that makes sense. And Demi Moore was talking about also. I think she has this, I think eighth house Scorpio stellium or something like that, all the things that she went through and everything, and it's like this. And yeah, I mean, because of the things that there are specific, I mean, like things, quotes that they have, and then you
Mhm.
look at the chart, yeah, that's the chart is speaking already
Yes.
about that. You see that. So I like, I mean, looking at those kind of I go check, etc. If it's an, also of course, I mean, if it's an person from the 19th century, etc., sometimes it's hard to find the right chart, etc., but I still like looking into that.
Yeah, because Astro Data Bank, I don't know if you've ever used it. That's the best. It's got AA rated charts on there. It's absolutely lovely. But I mean, the trouble, because we're going to finish soon, but just to talk about the trouble living in the UK is nobody's got their birth time written on their birth certificate. How do you cope with that?
I mean, it's actually, it's in Scotland they have, I mean, at least with my children, I mean, they have written their things, but uh
Oh, in Scotland, yes, they do. Don't. Sorry, I forgot. You're in Scotland. Yes, they do have it on their birth certificate. I don't have it in the UK, in England and Wales. They don't have it on the birth certificate.
I mean, I think I have not got many clients from UK. I
Hmm.
have from Turkey. By chance, I have people rectified. I,
Right.
I I have, I mean, I have got a course, I mean, for 5 weeks for rectification, etc. So I know the technique more or less. Yeah.
Wow.
But
Wow.
I
Deep
mean,
respect. That's a
yeah,
difficult technique. I can't bloody do it. Yeah, go
yeah,
on.
yeah, etc. And the thing is that, but I generally have either rectified charts.
Mhm.
If I need to make the time, I always talk to the client, trying to find the right ascendant, etc. And then in the end, construct the chart accordingly. And so
Mhm.
far, I never had a problem with that. But I mean, in some countries, I mean, in Spain, I think someone came and then they had their uh, time written on their birth certificate as well. I think it's probably also younger generation have these things already written. In
Mhm.
Turkey, I mean, like also some people by chance the parents have written down their exact birth time, etc. Because we don't have birth
It's
certificate.
not on the certificate.
I,
Okay.
I mean, in my time, at least, I mean, in 1970s, etc. No, didn't know. I mean, so it's like only like the parent will say that, okay, your mother got out of the, I mean, operation room at this time,
Mhm.
so you know the more or less the time. So, but so far so good. I mean, if rectified, I mean, I will probably try to rectify the chart,
Mm.
but until now, I didn't have any problem like that.
Yes, and I hear what you say that when you're talking with someone, you can sort of almost work out what ascendant they might have. I mean, I have noticed, because I've only been on Instagram a few weeks, I have noticed there's very, very few people that have got sun in the eighth house that are on, famous people, that is. It's just not the place to be. There's got to be something Leo going on. So, and I've got a Leo ascendant, so I'm perfectly happy on there. But I thought it was funny that people that are more shy, they're more likely to be on Twitter because you only get to write a few words. But yeah, social media is a different thing altogether. But being able to follow things that are in the news, especially when someone's famous. I think Jane Fonda's a Virgo, is that right?
No, I think she's a.
Uh,
I thought that she's a Capricorn.
Capricorn. Okay, okay. So
Yeah.
I'm confusing her with somebody else here. But the nice thing is about Astro Data Bank, it will have the birth data on there so that you'll be able to construct the correct chart. And an American-born person has their time on there, but it's quite annoying because I'm in the I'm in England in the UK, and nobody has it on there. But like you say, sometimes mummy will have written it down somewhere, or they'll have a baby book, or grandpa can remember, that type of thing. But it's, yeah, there's quite a lot of guesstimates, which is why in using the equal house system, it can make it a bit more complex if you don't have the time. So I'll just use 6 a.m. as a default time, just so I know what sign everything's in. So I know that they've got moon in Scorpio or moon in Leo, and then I can, talk about transits and stuff and about what might or might not be happening. So it's been lovely talking with you today, Teri. Thank you
Thank.
very much for taking the time to be with us. We'll put the links to be able to contact you on the show notes on the podcast and also onto YouTube. So if people want to get in contact, and And I presume that you've got an email address that you'd be happy to share, or a website address, so we'll put that on there. But just tell us quickly what your website address is.
Okay, it's surprising amethystastrotarot.com. My website is, and I think in most of the social media, I'm like Amethyst Astro Tarot in Twitter, on Instagram, on Threads, and also on Facebook. I mean, I'm like that. Only the podcast is Stars and Cars Chronicles. That's all. But in general, they will find me as Amethyst Astro Tarot.
Amethystastrotarot.com.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
.com.
lovely.
Yeah, yeah.
Got it. Thanks very much, Teri. I'm going to say goodbye, but we'll carry on talking a little bit afterwards. But thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.